y'all will show up. Woo! You know that when union workers are on strike, y'all will show up. That's what healthcare for all really looks like. It is understanding that healthcare is for the CEOs and corporate entities. People and greed for goodwill. Is there bad crime? For the kill. We the people are collateral damage. Someone's loved one bad today. Cause conditions pre-existed or they couldn't afford to pay. Medicare for all because healthcare is right. Medicare for all. Your Saturday fighting for what is a human right should be undeniable and without question that we ensure that everyone in our communities has access to quality health care, that we need health care for all. That should be undeniable. The fact that we even have to fight for it is disturbing and points to the problems of capitalism. So let's dismantle that. Woo! And I'm proud to be a part of the Seattle Democratic Socialists of America that are fighting to do just that, to build a city that is for everyone. I want to share a personal story with y'all. My father passed in December of 2020. He was a black man living in Indianapolis, Indiana. He was a worker and a union member. He worked in a factory for much of his life. He struggled to have adequate, stable housing like so many who are living paycheck to paycheck. For about 10 years of my life, my father was without a home. And even when he could access medical attention for the many physical struggles that he had, he would go to the hospital and describe his pain or describe his needs, and they would not listen to him. And when they would prescribe medications, they would not explain them to him. And when they wanted him to do certain things, they would not give him the time of day to really articulate why. My father was treated the way that so many black peoples in the US are treated when they go to seek medical attention, whether they have insurance or not. As we talk about healthcare as a human right, it's important to also talk about housing as a human right. To talk about workers' rights as a human right. To talk about the rights of our trans relatives as human rights. To talk about ending racism as a human rights struggle. The way that I see it is, if we don't end those other oppressions, then we will have many people in our communities who experience oppression, who may have access to health care, but will continue to be wounded by the same system that has wounded us in many other ways. And our fight for health care for all will be a Band-Aid on a perpetual wound. So I have to believe that if you are out here fighting for health care for all, that you will fight to end capitalism, that you will fight to end white supremacy, that you will fight for workers' rights, that you will fight for the rights of black trans women, because we know that so long as these other things exist, our health will not be as thriving as it can be. Housing is a health determinant. Racism shortens lives. Sexism shortens lives. Homophobia and transphobia shortens lives. So my message for you today is short. That if you will fight for healthcare for all, you have to be willing to stand in defense of black lives. You have to be willing to stand in defense of trans women. You have to be willing to stand with our indigenous relatives, those who have suffered the most of this landmass since the moment white and wealthy people set foot here. So yes, healthcare for all. And I need you to also say yes, Black Lives Matter. Yes, trans lives matter. Yes, workers' lives matter. We need that PRO Act, right? Imagine what it would be like to live in a world where everyone has access to health care that is not tied to their employment. Because I want to tell you about my little sister. She is a committed mama. She stays home every day with 3 little people, and her work is just as valuable as anyone who does it in an office building. You should not have to be employed in a context where you get paid to have access to health care. My sister, who daily grinds, does not have access to health care because it would cost her and her husband an extra $700 a month. It's unacceptable. So I need to know that the next time we take to the streets for Black lives, the next time socialists in our city throw an event to dismantle capitalism, that when it comes time to make sure that Shama Sawant can stay in her seat, y'all will show up. I need to know that when Black trans women call upon us, we will be there. Woo! I need to know that when the queens at Julia's, who all just got fired, start to organize and unionize the queens of our city, y'all will show up. Woo! I need to know that when union workers are on strike, y'all will show up. That's what healthcare for all really looks like. It is understanding that healthcare is more than when we go to a hospital. Healthcare is more than when we see a doctor. Healthcare is the food we eat in our neighborhoods. Healthcare is a lack of access to healthy food. Think about how many health issues we could prevent if the Rainier Beach neighborhood had access to the same things that Magnolia does. So as we fight for healthcare for all, I want us to fight for an intersectional means of justice, an intersectional healthcare fight that sees the myriad of fights that are happening in our city, that you'll stand up for those as well. Because that's what long life, thriving life looks like for everyone. A world without oppression, a world where you can go to the hospital when you need to, a world where workers have PPE, hazard pay, paid time off without having to fight for it. That is a healthy, thriving city. Thank you so much for spending your summer, your Saturday out with us. Woo! And appreciate you. And if you have time, please come down to Westlake to breathe for Kalani. Y'all feel me? Yes. It's just a few more hours. We can do it together. Yes. Word? Healthcare for all, y'all.
Woo! Woo! We love you, Nikkita.
Thank you so much, Nikkita. Oh my God, that was incredible. So, the other blank card, as someone who needs almost no introduction in this city, we have the first confirmed speaker for the Seattle March for Medicare for All was probably the only speaker that I didn't spend even 2 seconds wondering if they would speak. That is City Council member Shama Sawant. She is so reliable on this issue. You can't buy that kind of loyalty to a people's cause like Medicare for All, and I'm so honored to have her closing out the event for us today. Thank you so much, Shama.
Thank you, sisters, brothers, siblings, for fighting to win Medicare for all.
Nikkita Oliver.
Woo!
Wow, what's up, y'all? Alright, we're on. I was going to say about try something out. Okay? Y'all ready? I don't know. It's going to be alright. Are you ready? When I say cancel, y'all say run. Cancel.
Run!
Cancel.
Run!
Cancel.
Run!
Cancel.
Run!
I just wanted to hear your voices. Thank you. Thank you. And welcome to my neighborhood.
Your voice,
South. Yes, I
Just
said
go
that
whining
one.
now.
There's no THs on the South. I want to tell y'all a story. We were here not too long ago for the missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit folks event and rally where people filled the streets and marched together to claim that we will have our loved ones come back home. And I was here hanging out, made my way back to this stage, and there was a beautiful black woman in a red dress sitting right over there on the grass, and we caught each other's eyes. And I know that Seattle's cold and we tend to not say hi to each other, but I came over hi. And we started talking. And it turns out she was a pastor who knows Reverend Bianca over here, and she's with the Poor People's Movement. And I asked her, what do you think of Seattle? And she told me that as she drove around the city, she was disturbed to see tents, disturbed to hear about sweeps, disturbed to hear that one of the wealthiest counties in the entire United States on Turtle Island is failing to respond to the state of emergency that we're in. And she would never call Seattle progressive again. She told me she was shocked at the way that we treat our most vulnerable, shocked to hear that we sweep and we criminalize rather than responding with support and care. Because how we treat our most vulnerable residents is indicative of our level of progress and puts the heart of our city on display. It dictates the health and safety of our communities. You see, housing is a primary determinant of mental health, physical health, longevity of life and opportunity, and the quality of that housing also impacts one's mental health, physical health, longevity of life, and future opportunity. Housing is a human right. And if we want safer, healthier communities, we will ensure that everyone in our city, in our county, in our state has access to housing. Everybody will have access to affordable, green, quality housing. There are thousands of Seattleites every year teetering on the edge of housing instability and homelessness. And now as the COVID-19 crisis has gravely exacerbated the pre-existing conditions of racial, economic, and gender inequality in our city, more people than ever are facing this looming threat. So we gather today, not because we believe in political power, but because we believe in the power of the people and the power of the people to do something about it. Now it's Pride Month, and I'm a proud, queer, non-binary person.
Woo.
And I want to ground us in some history about liberation, because we don't have liberation unless we have trans liberation.
Woo.
We celebrate Pride Month in June because of Stonewall, and Stonewall was a what? Stonewall was a riot. It was a riot against discrimination and police brutality, and it was led by Black and brown trans sisters like Marsha B. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera.
Woo.
Stonewall was a riot. It was impacted people becoming our own power that led to change. And housing justice is an issue of trans liberation, and it's fitting that we be organizing for housing justice during Pride Month. We know that our trans siblings experience housing instability, discrimination, and homelessness at some of the highest rates. 37% of Black trans people have been evicted at some point in their lives because of their gender. 38% have been denied a home or apartment, and the same number have been forced to have sex to have housing. 40% of Black trans people who attempted to access a homeless shelter have been denied access because of being trans. And the majority of those who have tried to access shelters have been harassed by shelter staff or other residents. It's obvious that talking about safety requires talking about the liberation and safety of our trans members. And having a safe, affordable, quality place to live for everyone is a part of creating safe, thriving communities. Now, people will tell us that canceling rent and mortgages is radical. Now, I get it in the sense that Angela Davis said it means getting to the roots. It's about preventing a bigger crisis. In 2008, the United States, capitalism, bailed out banks. Rather than bailing out working people, when the housing market collapsed, it's about defense of CEOs and industry heads. Many of these folks remain rich today, while Black wealth nationally is projected to be zero by 2040. Capitalism is inherently exploitative and exploits working people, Black people, Native people, Latinx people, disabled communities, and does so purposely and intentionally. We know that bailouts and debt cancellation are possible. Bankruptcy law is literally built upon it. Bankruptcy law is a set of laws literally built to figure out how the rich can risk their money and stay rich afterwards. So where is the we are the ones who will have the political will to do what is right. And just as we've had a groundswell to support the No New Youth Jail movement, to support the defund movement, we will have a groundswell from the grassroots up to cancel rent. To do what?
Cancel rent.
Cancel rent. And as capitalism and an oppressive, exploitative system threaten to cancel us, we will push back, we will shout back, we will gather together in small numbers and big numbers, because by the power of the people, justice does happen. Justice is just us being just us, and it is a choice. So where is the poor people's bailout? It's right here. Thank you so much, y'all.
Woo!
You get your feel to eat, but always keep that hunger. May you never take one single breath for granted. God forbid love never leaves you in